Dawn on May 10, 1940. The first glider-borne assault in history was conducted by German combat engineers against the world's strongest fortress at Eben Emael in Belgium. Despite installing powerful guns and heavy armor, the Belgians neglected to build adequate defenses on the roof of the fortress. It was there that just 9 flimsy fabric-covered gliders landed and disgorged 71 highly trained German paratroopers who attacked the gun emplacements. The armored cupolas were destroyed by using a new type of explosive in the form of hollow charge weapons. In less than 30 minutes, the commanding gun emplacements of Fort Eben Emael were neutralized. The next day, the fortress surrendered, and the gateway into Belgium and France was open. The fall of what was to have been an unbeatable fortress caused a disaster for Belgium for the second time in a generation. The Belgians had built Fort Eben Emael after their struggle against Germany during World War I. In 1914, Belgium had faced a German army 10 times the size of her own. Against such overwhelming odds, Belgium's only defense had been her neutrality and a line of forts along her eastern frontier protecting the cities of Antwerp and Liège. The German General Staff under Count Alfred von Schlieffen had long planned a major offensive on France by storming through Belgium. On August 4, 1914, the Germans finally invaded Belgium, violating her neutrality. The invaders then began to destroy the Liège forts that stood in their path to France. The Liège forts were of massive concrete, steel, and brick construction, and were armed with rapid-firing guns in armored cupolas. Each was set low in the ground with wide fields of fire in all directions. The forts were expected to hold under siege from most types of artillery. However, within days, the Belgian forts were pulverized into submission by Germany's heavy artillery. The remnants of the Belgian army and thousands of refugees headed west. By October 1914, only a tiny strip of the country remained in Belgian hands. For the next 4 years, grueling trench warfare ensued along the entire Western Front. The battlefield was dominated by heavy artillery and machine guns. The Belgian army put up a heroic defense, holding on to the sliver of Belgian territory between the Isère River and the French border. The battle lines remained virtually stationary. It was a bloody stalemate. Gradually, the Germans were worn down, and in August 1918, the final Allied offensive began. Germany was forced to seek an armistice, which came into effect on November 11, 1918. Belgium and France had suffered grievously and were determined not to be drawn into another major European war. During the 1930s, France built an extensive line of fortifications stretching 200 miles along its eastern border, from Switzerland to the Ardennes forest. This was designed to deter another invasion from Germany. Each of the largest fortresses had a garrison of about 1,200 men and supplies for up to 3 months underground. Named after the French war minister, the Maginot Line did not extend along the frontier with neutral Belgium. Once more, Belgium reaffirmed her neutrality, but she also followed France's example by renovating and enlarging the forts around Liège and Antwerp. A massive new fortress was constructed at Eben Emael between 1931 and 1935 to guard the strategic junction of the Albert Canal with the Meuse River. These 2 water lines offer the most important obstacle to any invasion of central Belgium from Germany. The Belgian defenses were bolstered by heavy artillery weapons deployed in static lines similar to the methods of World War I. This time, Belgium was prepared for an invasion by Germany. Fort Eben Emael was the largest in the world and built to be invincible. It was built along the western bank of the newly constructed Albert Canal. Completed in 1935, it was the most modern fortress in Belgium. The fort's guns could strike at any target within a 12-mile radius, and its fire was integrated with that of the other forts protecting Liège. In the event of an attack, each fort was able to provide supporting fire to another within the chain. Fort Eben Emael was shaped like a diamond, with its narrowest point facing north. From north to south, it measured 1,100 yards and 800 yards from east to west, an area equivalent to 70 football fields. Along its northeastern edge, it was protected by the Albert Canal. Some 120 feet below and to the northwest, the fort was bordered by a water-filled anti-tank ditch and the Gier River. To the south, the fort was protected by a 30-foot wide anti-tank ditch that was 20 feet deep. The ditch connected a series of fortified blockhouses. These were surmounted by observation domes. Each of these blockhouses was armed with 60mm anti-tank cannons and machine guns to cover all avenues of approach. There was only one entrance into Fort Eben Emael. It was known as Block 1. Like the other blockhouses, it incorporated an observation dome, machine gun ports, and a 60mm anti-tank cannon. On top of the fortress were the main weapon systems. There were two armored cupolas known as Cupola Nord and Cupola Sud. These featured a 12-inch thick armored dome which would rise 4 feet above the ground to allow the twin 75mm guns to fire to a range of 5 miles in all directions. Between the rapid-firing guns was an observation and aiming periscope. As their names implied, Cupola Nord was situated to the north of the fortress and Cupola Sud to the south. In the center of the fortress was a non-retractable armored cupola mounting two 120mm guns. It was known as Cupola 120. These were the largest guns of Fort Eben Emael. There were 6 more gun emplacements or casemates on top of the fortress. 4 were armed with triple 75mm guns, each with a range of 7 miles. 2 of the casemates, known as Maastricht 1 and Maastricht 2, were positioned to fire at targets to the north where Maastricht and the vital bridges over the Albert Canal were located. 2 faced south, towards the town of Wiese. For this reason, they were known as Wiese 1 and Wiese 2. Their guns also covered